Friends, there's more to it than meets the eye. It is abundantly clear that the current Russian Secretary of the Security Council, whose name is Shoigu, either orchestrated this assassination attempt against himself or had it commissioned to be staged in a very theatrical and artful manner, much like a dramatic play. I really want to emphasize this point, that this story was pushed, that this story was being disseminated exclusively by a single prominent Russian propaganda publication. Perhaps others picked it up afterwards, but the initial exclusive dissemination of this information was indeed the work of the Moskovsky Komsomolets publication. And so these are the sorts of incidents that people have been keeping an eye on for nearly the entire week. Shoigu was targeted at a cemetery. Russian media reported an assassination attempt on the secretary of the Russian Federation Security Council. What's more, there's even a video that surfaced today supposedly showing the apprehension of this particular group of saboteurs. And quite amusingly, the alleged saboteurs were identified as two individuals with drug addictions, one Ukrainian from Kiev and some Asian person. What a truly exceptional collection of saboteurs they turned out to be. Based on their own elevated and precise classification, these saboteurs successfully managed to deploy a remote-controlled camera into which a sophisticated bomb was ingeniously embedded, and then masterfully camouflaged this entire contraption, making it appear as nothing more than a common vase overflowing with beautiful flowers. This entire incident unfolded at the Troyekurovskoye cemetery in Moscow. And so the FSB somehow got wind of all this and swiftly moved in to apprehend these individuals right after they had set up this incredibly advanced technological explosive device. Here's the video evidence. Take a look. Yes, this is essentially the moment of their apprehension. I believe they're arriving at their residence.
Hands, name. What's your name? First name, last name, patronymic. All right, put the handcuffs on him.
Well, in short, a massive assassination attempt, or rather a conspiracy targeting Shoigu himself, which they successfully uncovered. Now let's delve into the context. A mere week before these events, the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation, operating entirely on unsubstantiated claims, had already issued a statement reporting that Ukrainian special services were actively planning an assassination attempt on a specific high-ranking official, with the incident purportedly set to occur in Moscow. Well, the Ukrainian special services, of course, didn't confirm anything. However, it's worth noting that no other sources apart from the FSB of the Russian Federation corroborated any of these claims either. Thus, a sort of foundation was laid, a pretext crafted, suggesting something was imminent, yet they obscured who the actual target of this assassination attempt would be. And then it comes to light that, let's call him the high-ranking official, the former Minister of Defense, and currently the Secretary of the Security Council, Shoigu. So, let's now delve into the reasons why Shoigu might find all of this necessary and beneficial. The situation is quite straightforward. My friends, Shoigu is a rather well-known and generally well-regarded individual among the Russian populace. Let me state it clearly. I have, at one point, even observed certain sociological measurements conducted among the female populace, particularly those aged 55 and above, within the Russian Federation. The vast majority of them, by popular consensus, viewed him as a very handsome man, well-suited and entirely deserving of the role as the leader of the Russian Federation. And honestly, I'm not making this up. I get that for you, it might come across as somewhat amusing, perhaps even a jest, but truly it's no laughing matter. And that's how women in Russia cast their votes. That voting bloc belongs entirely to Shoigu. He is quite popular. He wields significant influence among regional elites. He possesses considerable wealth. Take a moment to observe, pay close attention, and conduct an online search for the luxury watches he frequently sports at government sessions or during joint deliberations with the Kremlin leadership. He makes absolutely no secret of the fact that he has plenty of money. Maybe not as much as Putin, but he has it, which means he can buy things with it. Incidentally, he maintains strong connections with the Ministry of Defense of the People's Republic of China, an entity to whom Putin frequently dispatched envoys throughout the initial 2 years of the full-scale invasion, and even prior, during the Donbas conflict, a narrative unfolding since 2014 with the occupation of our territories. This same entity was also the recipient of Putin's delegations, whom, whom Putin consistently dispatched to meet with Xi Jinping, and also the individual currently under US sanctions, the Minister of Defense, who ultimately was reinstated. Not least because, well, these established contacts were between the military departments of the Russian Federation and China. He's the number one guy, the contact, right? And yet, with Shoigu at the helm, frankly, as unpalatable as it may be to acknowledge, there was. Let's just say, today they are blaming Belousov, the individual who replaced Shoigu as the Minister of Defense, asserting that he almost single-handedly, through his inept leadership, caused the incident in the Kursk region, which deeply troubles both the Kremlin and Putin. Over there, it's considered resolved, right? We can evaluate it differently here. We have heard diverse evaluations from various sources, including our ambassador to Great Britain and our former commander-in-chief Zaluzhny, conveying differing perspectives from our Ukrainian partners. But in Russia, the assessment is singular. The matter is closed for today. However, the very occurrence of this event is something that cannot be forgiven. And the individual who has become the scapegoat today is none other than the current Minister of Defense, Belousov. Moreover, after Shoigu was temporarily removed from his duties, he quite rapidly secured both a new occupation and a suitable position for himself. They found this position for him, a perfect springboard for a return, yes. A few individuals associated with him were arrested. One deputy, Ivanov, was caught red-handed embezzling funds in connection with the construction of a water supply line to Donbass, which was supposed to compensate for the problem with the Siversky Donets. So, this water problem in Donbass right now shouldn't have existed. But Ivanov was caught red-handed embezzling. Yes, they found billions there. He's jailed for 13 years. Lapin also got ousted, and that's it. So they didn't really heavily disrupt Shoigu's immediate surroundings. And now we have this whole situation concerning what appears to be an assassination attempt. And just observe this wonderfully intriguing. A note or whatever it may be on the Kremlin Snuffbox Telegram channel, which is affiliated with the Kremlin. So they write, they quote, they provide quotes from sources. So everyone is already aware of the fact that saboteurs intended to assassinate Sergei Kuzhugetovich, you see? That's the story. Such hostile ambitions can hardly be deemed purely coincidental. The intended target turned out to be one of the most... Kuzhugetovich, pardon me, yes, Sergei Kuzhugetovich. Such enemy desires are rarely random. The target was one of Russia's most seasoned and key politicians. And we must all understand, it's a good thing that Sergei Kuzhugetovich hasn't played his last card in the history of our country. There, you see, right, one of the sources is certain. According to another source, a close associate of Shoigu, he hasn't ruled out the possibility of reclaiming his position as Minister of Defense. This is because under Andrei Belousov, and I quote, the army has not achieved significant successes. The recent assassination attempt might just be the catalyst to persuade Vladimir Putin to reinstate Sergei Kuzhugetovich to his previous post, because it, and here's that quote, shows the importance of the Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation. Do you understand? Can you grasp the depth of this entire situation? So, look, if Ukrainian special services are targeting me, it implies that I am a significant figure, one who possesses considerable influence and, importantly, can safeguard Putin. Possesses considerable influence and is, among other attributes, truly capable of safeguarding Putin. Because what about Putin? He could very easily be swayed by this narrative, or at least that faction within his inner circle that's currently urging him to remain in his bomb shelters and various hidden bunkers, one of which is situated at a depth of approximately 50 meters underground. I've even managed to uncover information of that nature. However, the verified details pertain to appearing on camera in various locations, yet presenting yourself in such a way that everyone assumes you are consistently in one single spot. Putin's copy offices do exist, a topic that emerged in 2015, with subsequent sightings in 2018 and once more in 2020. So this is a reality Putin has been living in for quite some time. But now, Putin's paranoia is flaring up into outright absurdity. The narrative of Shoigu's assassination attempt genuinely had a strong impact on Putin. And currently, he finds himself genuinely swayed by those individuals eager to reinstate Shoigu, and consequently, they are prepared. to embrace the narrative involving Gerasimov, this individual who champions extensive mobilizations. They are prepared to accept that, with Shoigu at the helm, a recurrence of something akin to the Kursk incident will be averted, and that the Russian Federation will successfully conclude this special military operation from a position of dominance, an ardent supporter, of which this special military operation is indeed, among other things, led by Shoigu himself. This information truly influenced Putin. Well, that's quite an interesting story indeed. Regarding the copy offices, while that's a distinct subject, Radio Liberty's comprehensive research and detailed analysis conclusively demonstrated that there are indeed 3 identical premises: Bocherov Ruchi, located in Sochi; Valdai, situated in the Nizhny Novgorod region; and Novo Ogaryovo, found near Moscow. So, researchers assert that the 3 office rooms are distinct, and they made a mistake because the folders and some subtle elements there of the walls are decorated slightly differently, and that gives away that they're all different places, which Putin uses to confuse, well, his enemies, of course. By the way, Putin hasn't been to Bocherov Ruche in Sochi for a long time. He mostly stays at Valdai or Novo Ogaryovo, but so that people don't think he's only there, he also travels to another location. And here's another interesting publication. This one is from The Telegraph. This highlights that Putin genuinely fears internal unrest and full-blown insurrections throughout the Russian Federation. And this whole story, with right now a slide is being shown that says, "I'm afraid of rebellions." But what it's really about is these kids singing songs near a metro station in St. Petersburg. And now this girl, this Nayoka, her name is Diana Loganova. She's presently undergoing her 3rd 13-day incarceration for performing songs. In these St. Petersburg pretrial detention centers. Meanwhile, Putin remains in hiding somewhere, in his secret hideouts. And of course, if Putin is genuinely afraid of a child, then what's your opinion? Do you think Putin would fall for the news about an assassination attempt on Shoigu? Definitely. Of course,